Welcome to the Digital Lifestyle Show. This is show 763, and coming up this week we've got the news about Windows 10X. We've got the latest Windows Insider build news, including some interesting changes coming to the beta channel. We've got news on Surface Duo and lots more. Now this week it's just me. We're back from my little break, and Richard and Gary aren't here tonight, so it's just me. So I'm going to talk you through some of the news from the last couple of weeks since we were last on the show. So let's start with the news that Microsoft released a new build to the beta channel last week, build 19042.421. So you know by the .421 that it's a minor incremental build to the beta channel, and that's a 20H2 build, so that's due for second half of 2020. But actually, even though it was a minor build change, it had all the UI changes that was released to the dev channel, the old what was fast ring, a few weeks ago. So there's actually quite a few changes on here, and I've fired it up here on my virtual machine. So the first thing you notice, so we've got this new look start tiles. They lose the backdrop or the background solid color, and they get this sort of nice sort of translucent effect. And you see it also with the icons in so you see it also with the icons down in the start menus. This was introduced to the dev channel a few weeks ago, and I really like the look of what they've done with this. It's got a slightly more modern feel. It's not a huge difference, but it is a nice change, and I wonder when that was going to be coming to the general Windows users, because it came out to the because it was the dev channel a few weeks ago. But it looks like this is going to be coming out with the 20H2 release, so later this year, maybe about October time. So it's a nice look. It supports light mode and dark mode and colors, color accents as well, and I think it makes a nice change to Windows 10. The other thing that they introduced with this build as well, that was also in the in the changes for the dev channel, was the new notifications. You pop up little toasts that come up, so you get those new style ones which have got an icon and the name of the app and a close button on there. So it's kind of borrowed from Windows 10X, which we'll come back onto later, but I do like to see those the sort of modern UI on it. Also with that as well, they mentioned that also including that build was Alt Tab as well. Alt Tab has been improved, and so now when you've got multiple tabs open with Microsoft Edge, when you do Alt Tab, it actually Alt Tabs between them. So if you're on current version of Windows 10 and you may have got 10 tabs open in Edge and Word and Outlook, Alt Tab would flick between those, as in Edge, Outlook, Word. With this new option, Alt Tab will actually go cycle through the open tabs in Edge. You can turn it off if you want. It's just a setting in the multitasking settings, but it's a way of cycling through your tabs as well as going through the open applications. So it works pretty well, actually. I was pretty impressed with that, and it's a nice setting to see. That was on the dev channel, and that's been introduced as 20H2 build as well. So I think that's also going to be coming to Windows 10 later this year. The other thing that they mentioned in the blog post is that when you set up a machine out the box, it's going to it's going to, depending on what apps and services you've got linked to your Microsoft account, you can get different taskbar layouts on a clean install. So you may have Mail app pinned, you may have your phone, you may have Xbox, depending on what services you've already got set up on there. I did do a reset on this a couple of weeks ago and had a go with it, but I didn't see any changes on that. So that must be just rolling out now. But that was, again, another dev build that's gone into 20H2. And there's some other things like settings. There's some of the system information is built into settings now. You can read in settings, save you going into control panel, because Microsoft got a big thing about getting control panel, get rid of control panel and getting all the things into settings. So they've brought those over. There's a whole bunch of fixes as well. So it's actually, for a minor update, it's actually a significant amount of changes to Windows 10. And I guess this will be the feature set that ships with 20H2. The other big change, of course, with 20H2 is that the new Microsoft Edge is installed by default. So if you haven't got it, when you do that upgrade, it will install it for you. It is an incremental build, not a full 4 gig build, so it's actually quite a quick install to get in as well. So this is going to be a really nice update. Nothing huge, but the UI changes are nice. I've got videos of the UI changes you can see on our YouTube channel. You can see it in action there. But I think they've done a good job with 20H2, considering it's not going to be a massive upgrade or anything. It's just some nice visual changes in there. I think it's nice to refresh it, and I hope that they've got some more stuff in the works for Windows 10, because I think it does need a bit of a UI refresh. We've had this sort of UI for some time, and these translucent tiles, along with the new notifications and some of the things are nice changes. So that was the 20H2 build. We also got a fast ring build or dev channel build last week, and in fact it's recorded. We've had two. We've had 20170 and 20175. So 20170 was all about more of these control panel changes, bringing them back into settings. So first of all, settings has a new icon as that's actually borrowed from Windows 10X, and they've brought some of the audio settings in, so you can have default devices and views directly in Windows 10 settings rather than going into control panel. So that was the build from a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of fixes in there, and only a handful of known issues. So that was from a couple of weeks ago. Not a huge amount of change with that. With the build that was released last week, the main change was clicking on a pinned site on the taskbar will show you all the open tabs for that site across all your Edge windows. So if you've got pinned sites and multiple Edge windows, when you hover over it in the taskbar, you can see all the windows that are open. I'm still not really understanding how this is going to work in practice, and my fast ring build and Surface Go hasn't got this settings, because this is one of those settings that's not available to everybody. Same with the new style start menu. If you're on the dev channel, not everybody's getting that. I think I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago on the show. But anyway, this I haven't got that, so I haven't been able to try it yet. But there are some other things. There's some new icons like the snip and sketch icon, again comes over from Windows 10X, and there's some fixes and known issues in there. So there's quite a few changes in under the hood stuff, but not major UI stuff at this stage anyway. Oh, there was one interesting thing there as well. Is that, I don't know if you know, but in settings you can go through to and the apps, you can reset apps if they behave badly. This is something that wasn't available when Windows 10 first launched, and I think quite a few times the Mail app would sort of corrupt itself and you couldn't do anything with it. They'd put the option in settings to reset those apps, but they've now created a PowerShell command for it as well. You used to have to do it through multiple steps. Now there's just one command on there, so it's nice and easy to sort out as well on that. So nice little changes, but it's interesting to see how they're using this idea with the dev channel not being tied to any future release of Windows 10 and the beta channel being tied to a release, because what they've done there is they tried these UI changes out initially in the dev channel, then they brought it to the beta, because I think they try it in the dev channel and they know, okay, this is okay, we want to ship this with the next version of Windows 10, so they bring it to the beta channel, and that seems to be working quite well. I've even got this build working on my on my old yoga book, and it gets a new start menu, and it works really well. So I think 20H2 is not going to have a huge amount of features, but there's some nice little visual changes in there. Now, I mentioned Windows 10X before, because we're not in the with the group, with the regular team. It's not so much a discussion, but I did want to mention that. So there's been reports that Windows 10X is going to ship without the Win32 subsystem. So a recap: Windows 10X is the next version of Windows 10, a lighter version of Windows 10 that Microsoft have been working on for some time now. You can try it out. There's a Microsoft emulator you can get from the store, and you can install a build of Windows 10X on it. It was the emulator and the build was primarily to test dual screen, or for developers to create dual screen experiences, because initially Windows 10X was going to be launching on the Neo and at the end of this year, and Windows 10X powers that dual screen Neo. But that has changed. Microsoft have changed the plans for Windows 10X. It's no longer about dual screen devices. They mentioned this a few months ago, that they were switching away from that because of the change in the global situation. So Windows 10X is going to be seen on single screen devices, not just dual screen devices. In fact, the Neo has been put back till next year, and we'll see Windows 10X ship first with single screen devices. And when you can try this with the emulator. Some Win32 apps do work on it, but they're not running natively. They're being emulated. Some things worked, some didn't work when I tested it. And Microsoft are supposedly not going to be including that Win32 emulator in the next versions of Windows 10, because they're going for the low end sort of Chromebook kind of market. So the a Windows 10X device can run a lower spec PC because it doesn't need to have the emulation. It means it will run web apps just fine. It'll run UWP apps, but you won't be able to install Photoshop on there or anything that's Win32. That seems to me to sound familiar, because it sounds like Windows RT. I've got a very nice Surface RT and the Surface RT 2 that I have, and yeah, they don't get used anymore because Microsoft backed away from that, because as we discussed on the show back when that launched, people were returning because they couldn't run Windows apps. So how Windows 10X is going to fare in the market when it doesn't run Windows apps, Windows, that you would install, download and install, I'm not sure how that's going to work. Microsoft need to make sure they position these devices as something for consumption, browsing, like a Chromebook, but still I'm sure people are going to expect to run standard Windows apps on there, and or to download their own apps and install on there. And I don't know whether that's going to be a good or a bad thing for Windows 10X. I guess it depends on the devices, but we're pretty much back to the same situation with Windows RT, where unless it's got an app in the store, it's not going to work. And that was a major letdown. Microsoft have said they're focusing back on Windows 10 once again since the pandemic. So I don't know. Windows 10X without Win32 support, for someone like me, it'd be fine. I would use it on a Surface Go, something like that. Just use it for browsing and UWP apps and web apps, no problem. But then if you want to install something on it, maybe Chrome or like I said, Photoshop or an audio recording tool or something like that, then that's not going to work. So are people going to be put off on these devices, or can Microsoft get the messaging right to know that if you need a device to do all that stuff I just mentioned, then you get a Surface Go with Windows 10 Home on it, or or whatever, HP, Envy, or whatever. And if you want a Chromebook type device, then you can get one of these other devices. I mean, something like the Yoga Book, or potentially something like that. Of course, good thing without having the restriction of so far all Windows 10X is only run on Intel because of this emulation layer. So without having the emulation area, I guess it could run on ARM processors as well, which does open up this market for different devices, ARM-powered devices, long battery life, always-on connectivity, running Windows 10X, lightweight device. That sounds a great device for me. So hopefully that we'll see those, but I don't know whether they can get the messaging right. We saw Windows 10S, which is effectively the same thing, where it was locked down to only store apps. That wasn't successful. Windows RT hasn't been successful. So where that leaves Windows 10X, I'm not quite sure. I guess it depends on the device, when we're going to see these devices. Hopefully this year we're going to see those devices, because I'd really like to see a lightweight ARM-based connective, Chromebook competitor from Microsoft that runs Windows 10X. Windows 10X looks nice. It's nice, simple UI. How much of that they're going to bring to Windows 10, we'll have to see. We've already seen the start menu No, we haven't seen that. We've already seen the notifications. We've seen the flat look of the start menu, but not the start menu. So maybe some stuff from Windows 10X can come over to Windows 10, but Windows 10X is going to be a thing without Win32. Enterprise customers, it's a bit different because there's virtual desktop and Azure hosted applications. So you effectively like a remote desktop in those applications, RDP web, that kind of thing. So that will be fine for enterprises who can have got the infrastructure in place, but not for consumers. Maybe they'll launch some kind of consumer service for virtualized apps. It could be possible that you install it, that you think you're installing, but it's actually on some Azure and it's got to and it runs remote desktop. I don't know that that's really what they'll be able to do, but it would be nice to see something like that. Maybe even like a cloud desktop, that kind of thing. But I really want to see Windows 10X be successful. I think we need a lightweight version of Windows 10 to compete with Chromebooks and lightweight devices. I always thought that the Win32 emulation was good enough to get by, so that if there was something you needed, you could install it. Not having that, I don't know whether that will affect, whether that will put consumers off on that. Yeah, that's Windows 10X. Is it Windows RT repeated? We'll find out more as Microsoft tell us more, and hopefully we'll get a new emulator soon. We can give it a try, and even better, an image that we could install on a Surface Go or on some old device like a Yoga Book or whatever. And we can give this a try. I really want to give that a try. Something I forgot to mention before when I was talking about the Windows inside of the dev builds, they have released an ISO of 20175. So if you want to install 20175 on a clean install, you can download the ISO and just wipe machine, do a clean install. It's often a good way of getting started rather than keep upgrading. Every now and again, I do like to do a clean install on my machines. It's a bit of a pain, it wipes everything out, but when you keep installing inside of builds over and over again, sometimes you do feel like things are better when they've got a clean install. So anyway, so you can get those. So I've got links for all that in the show notes along with the podcast and the video. A quick update on the gaming stuff we talked about a couple of weeks ago with the steering wheel. I've been very much enjoying my Logitech steering wheel and pedals. I've been playing Assetto Corsa as well, so I've been using Project Cars 2 originally, but I got given Assetto Corsa as a gift, so I've been trying that, and I have to say that's a pretty fun game. It's a bit more raw than Project Cars 2, a bit more of a simulator, I would say, but it's really good fun. And for Windows Mixed Reality users, it actually out of the box isn't designed to support Windows Mixed Reality. If you go into Steam, it doesn't mention Windows Mixed Reality, but if you do want to give it a try, it's very simple. In settings, there's a VR render mode, and by default it goes to Oculus. You change it to OpenVR, and it works great on Windows Mixed Reality. The menus don't, but the actual gameplay works fine. So the menus, you kind of take your headset off and have a look at it, whereas Project Cars, the menus are rendered within the Mixed Reality headset. But the good thing I found on that as well is that when you're not in the game, it's quicker to load up. You can load it up, leave it running, and then it just fires up the VR bit when you put the headset on. So I found it was quite quick to load up, whereas Project Cars 2 was a bit slow to load up initially. So that's been quite good. You do need a fairly decent machine. I found my gaming laptop's a bit underpowered. If I start to get more than 5-6 cars on it, it starts to struggle. But it's good fun anyway. Regular listeners will know I do like my VR with Windows Mixed Reality. So this Lenovo headset works great with the steering wheel. So now I'm using it with as well as Project Cars 2. I've got Assetto Corsa, and it's very good fun. So then I'm really excited for is the Surface Duo, and we've seen that go through the FCC certification, which is the US carrier certificate, or the US electronics device certification. Also gone through the Canadian one as well. So I think that is coming up for launch soon. Don't know when exactly. I'm hoping that it'll be in the next. Well, I'd love to see it before the end of August, and I really hope it gets a US. And I really hope it gets a UK launch, not just a US only launch, which I suspect might happen, but I'm hoping not. My Pixel 2 XL, as I mentioned last week, the camera's not working at all now. I've done all sorts to try and get it working, but it's not coming back. So I'm reluctantly looks like I need to get a new phone. The Surface Duo will be ideal for that. If it doesn't come out, then I don't know what I'm going to look at instead. And I mean, Android's great for me, but I'm not particularly excited, so I'm not really bothered about getting a flip or anything like that. So, but I'll get an Android phone of some kind. But if I could get the Surface Duo, then I'd be quite happy to give that a try. I do like the look of that. I've seen loads of Microsoft people posting pictures with it, doing cooking with it, and you can see in the background and that kind of thing. So it's definitely coming soon. So I hope it gets a UK release date as well as a US one, and pre-orders come up, and I can get hold of one of those, and can get rid of my Pixel 2 XL. It's been a decent device, the Pixel 2 XL. Previous one was a Nexus 6 I had. That had a hardware failure. I had to get rid of that. So this is like the second Google device that I've had that's had a hardware failure. The Pixel 4 is due out, 4A I think, and I'm not really that excited about getting another Pixel necessarily. So if the Duo doesn't come out, then maybe I'll just get a mid-range Samsung to sort of tide me over until the Duo is available in the UK. So that's my roundup of the news for this week. We should be back with our normal style show next week. We might even have a guest or two for you. We're trying to work on some stuff for that. You can follow me on Twitter @IsDixon. You can find me on thedigital-lifestyle.com, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel where I've got the build videos, how-to videos, and of course this show as well is there available on video as well as audio podcast. I'm after your assistance as well I want to do some more how-to videos. So if you've got any suggestions for how-to videos, what you think I should be looking at, how to for Windows 10 type stuff, let me know. You can drop me a line in at thedigital-lifestyle.com. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.